Welcome back to this edition of Up Next. My guest, Right Honorable Sir James Mitchell, former Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines and the founder of the New Democratic Party. I'm Jerry George. You said you had something to finish off from another illustration of your contact with Prime Minister?
After the issue with the boundary was settled by arbitration between Barbados and Trinidad, I wrote another letter.
Grenada and Trinidad?
Between Tobago, Trinidad and Tobago and Barbados.
Okay.
I wrote another letter to the Prime Minister. You will recall my letter of 8th of June 2004, in which I drew to your attention the need for St. Vincent and the Grenadines to notify the Secretariat of the Law of the Sea Convention of our interest in the boundary delimitation dispute between Barbados and Trinidad and Tobago. I understand that settlement of this dispute by arbitration has been announced, and in it there is no reference to the boundaries of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We should record our position on this issue. I suggest we make our dispute to the United Nations Secretary General and the Secretariat of the Law of the Sea Convention. I respectfully suggest we go further and issue a statement to the effect that, quote, the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines declares that in the absence or failing of any other peaceful means, it chooses in order of preference and in accordance with Article 287 of the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, the following procedures for the settlement of disputes regarding the interpretation or application of the Convention: A, the International Tribunal for the Law of the Sea; B, the International Court of Justice. It would be in the interest of Grenada and St. Lucia to join us in this declaration. I leave this up to you, but feel that we should be upfront with our own declaration.
So these are all indications that you are giving us that you have had contact. But Sir James, in some people's mind, there's a lingering suspicion about your relationship with Prime Minister Gonsalves. And it goes back to that walk on the Grand Dance Beach, the Grand Beach Accord. The Grand Dance Beach, actually, it is the Grand Dance Beach in Grenada, during the time that there was some disruption in St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Jerry, let me refresh everybody's mind. One, there was a strike in St. Vincent, and there was a threat to peace with this so-called roadblock revolution. Civil servants, the teachers, the nurses, the doctors, police, all of them wanted their 30%. And I could see, and I know the opposition was being properly funded. People don't take trucks and block the road without getting money. I know what that kind of operation cost.
Do you have any idea who was financing them?
I have a good idea who was financing it. It wasn't anybody in St. Vincent but the good offshore interest. Good. Nobody pays any attention to the historic facts and my own state of mind. Our government could have collapsed before. I had to go down to Union Island with all my ministers in a retreat to make peace about airport charges.
In your government?
In my own government. We had 2 days of retreat in Union Island. So I was in a certain state of mind. And then there was the pressure of the public servant. But I want to say, while I was in Grenada, my deputy and Minister of Finance, Arnim Eustace, I called him. I've not said this before. And I said to him, I have to go for the peace agenda, and we're going to compromise. But I am not going to accept any election this year, but I'll go for a compromise next year. He said to me, I said, are you ready for election next year? He said, yes. And you talk about Grand Beach Accord, there was also, let me announce now, there was a Grand Bay Accord in Canada when we worked out the strategy also, me and Eustace, for the referendum.
Sir James, what exactly transpired in that walk in the beach?
What transpired is the walk was only a minute, not less than a minute. I wanted to expose the ODD to show that there was nothing, to show that the power was only with Ralph. I wanted peace, and we said, I'll do a deal, and the deal was, okay, we'll cut short the life of the parliament, because there was precedent for this. I said, if that is it, no, I didn't not sell out anything. I preferred peace. Let the people vote. They're still blaming me and say I gave the government, even though he has now won 3 elections and the people been voted. Come on. Go and read my book and read my speech there, Guide and Change in the Islands. Read this book, Season of Light, and you'll see it all. There's no mystery.
Because one of the things that people say, and I hate to bring her in here, but people seem to think that you made some accommodation for your daughter.
Listen, at that stage, Louise was making more money than she got when she came home to work for government. Louise was in South Carolina working as a lawyer with a free apartment and a free car and working for US dollars. I was the most shocked man when Louise told me she coming home.
And had nothing to do with the grandbaby?
Nothing whatsoever. Louise was in South Carolina making good US dollars.
Let's move now to the most recent of them. In a sitting of Parliament, the Prime Minister got up and said that you had called him and offered this new cocoa project that had been part, I would think, a very linchpin part of the campaign in the last general election. What exactly transpired? I think people need to know. People are hungry to know what happened.
Jerry, the only time I called the Prime Minister was to congratulate him after 2000. I have not called him since.
Does that mean that you haven't spoken?
We speak. If he calls me, I will speak.
Okay.
And if he leaves a message on my phone, I will return the call. That is proper courtesy. But in respect of all this going to the UN and to the thing, it was Louise he spoke to, not me. And when he called me and my staff answered. I didn't answer. Said the Prime Minister's office is on the line. So I answered, and he said to me then, he says, you know, I have received your thing on human responsibilities, and we're going to support it. And you know, we can get you to the UN.
So he called in relation to the interaction letter?
He called me in regard to that. Then he went on to say, I have given Louise the appointment to meet with Amajaro tomorrow.
So how did he know about that? Did he was dealing with
Louise was dealing with Amajaro, and Louise fixed up the meeting at the request of Amajaro. I have all the correspondence here to give. Show you.
Okay, let's continue. Because it is said that you got some 10% out of this deal and that you've put Louise in front.
Well, you know, I got that statement from Daisley, who told me that Eustace at the NDP headquarters one day pulled him aside and said, what about the cocoa money? And Daisley said, what cocoa money? I know anything about any cocoa money.
This is Len Daisley.
Lenny Daisley. He told me that Eustace said so. And I heard subsequently that his wife, people told me his wife said, the money didn't come to me, it went to Louise's account. All of that without anybody calling me, you know. But Jerry, let me give you the sequence of events about this cocoa business. I did a lot of research on the cocoa. I worked in cocoa. I studied cocoa at the Imperial College of Tropical Agriculture, and I worked 3 months one year and 2 months the next year in cocoa research, planting cocoa all over Trinidad. So I know about cocoa. And I was very worried and remain worried about the collapse of our agriculture and the farmers in the country having to come to town and become security guards. Wives have to come into town with a little tray to sell a few things and so on. I was looking for something, and I realized that cocoa would be appropriate for us to develop, you know. And I know, for example, that cocoa is indigenous to this part of the world. Not like bananas, which came from Southeast Asia. Cocoa originated in the upper tributaries of the Amazon. And it was from there it was brought into the Caribbean, by the Caribs and so on, and by other routes it went all the way up to Mexico. When the Spaniards invaded or moved in, and the conquistador Hernan Cortez went to Mexico, and he was having food, dinner with Montezuma, he got this brown, bitterish drink, which they call exolat, which is written like X-O-C-O-L-A-T.
Yeah.
And that drink, he then took it, and it was after it went back to Spain, the botanists up there named it and named the plant when they got it Theobroma cacao. What does Theobroma mean? Theo, like theology. Theo, God, and broma, food. Look in it for broma, your bromide. Theobroma, chocolate is food of the gods. And the variety they were growing at that stage was one called Forastero. We have several other varieties in the Caribbean, Criollo, then you have Trinitario, and you have the new ones, like one that in West Africa, they call it the Mercedes, have a new one called the CCN 51. So I know all about the cocoa business, and I proposed it to the NDP convention that we should do it in July. In August, I met a gentleman by the name of Nico Debenham in Beckwith. And Nico is head of traceability and sustainability, right? Head of traceability and sustainability in Almajaro. I realized then we were onto something, and I researched Almajaro. And when he went back, as soon as he went back, he wrote me an email, and this is what he said. Dear Sir James, and this is an email in 31st, that was the 31st of August. This was, he come here in August. August, yes. It was a great honor to meet you last week in Beckwith. I am in the process of discussing the proposal to support farmers of St. Vincent to start growing cocoa with my colleagues in London. We are very interested in partnering with the farmers of St. Vincent to plant and grow cocoa. I will revert with a extensive proposal in due course. Let me repeat. From Almajaro, Nico Debenham, we are interested in partnering with the farmers, not with the NDP, not with the ULP, with the farmers of St. Vincent. This is what the man said.
We must go to our final break, Sir James. On this edition of Up Next, my guest, former Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Sir James Mitchell. We're talking things that you know that you want to know. There's much more as we come into a final segment. Don't go away. We'll be right back.